District breakdown time. There's my guy Dixie. We are talking 7-5A Division II. That was Melissa's district last year. They went undefeated in district play, and they bring a lot of talent back. So, do you expect them to be at the top there again?
You know, Melissa and Lovejoy are obviously the top two teams in this district, and they're going to be fun to watch. I cannot wait for that Lovejoy Melissa game. Hopefully, they'll schedule it on a Thursday again, and maybe we can come if we don't have crazy weather like we did last season, where that game got all out of kilter and everything ended up on Thursday at the end of the season. But Lovejoy and Melissa have a really good rivalry, and Coach Matt Nally over there at Melissa, he has built something good. They got Trevor Ham coming up. I remember last year on the campfire, all you wanted to talk about was Nigel Smith. So tell us all
Yeah,
about Nigel
that's
Smith
all
and
I want to talk
everything
about,
about him.
guys. I know one thing: his bobblehead's being constructed as we speak. That is a man-child on the defensive line, and he's coming back. He's got a
No,
couple.
you're just waiting for his game, his breakout game, and you're like, okay, we're ready for him.
His breakout game in week, he's already had about 4 or 5 of them already. I remember the Argyle game; he came down with a bunch of tackles, considering nobody was really tackling anybody in that game. But when somebody did, it was I can't remember his number, but it was definitely Nigel.
And they got Nate Adejokin coming back as well, a very talented running back. I mean, when you got those kinds of skill players coming back, you got your quarterback, your running back, and you got Nigel Smith coming back. It might be sacrilegious for me to say I'm not picking you to repeat the district, but Lovejoy, man, I know we know what happened last year with Lovejoy, but
Right.
now we only got one quarterback in the quarterback room, and it's a quarterback with experience. And we got Hondo Franklin, Alexander Franklin. It's basically his room now, and assuming all stays there, everything is good there. He is going to be the guy. But a player I really want to highlight, Ward, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up to make this bobblehead in 2 years. Uh, Everybody in the underclassmen are talking about this kid, and he has not played a varsity snap. Jalen Lott. He is the son of former Bears cornerback James Lott, and he is a player who is going to be an absolute stud for Lovejoy. He's currently slated right now to be a cornerback, but wide receiver university over there, that he might end up on both sides of the ball because Lovejoy loves kind of implementing those little gadget players and getting them on both sides of the ball. You got Peyton Pierce coming back at linebacker. You got Chase Bogle coming back at linebacker. How about Dalen McCutcheon? All the wide receivers last year, and they had quite the wide receiver room and the quarterback room. But you got Dalen McCutcheon coming back, who is a fantastic wide receiver. They've got the talent to overcome it. If they can get the chemistry going on, I personally think Lovejoy is still the team to beat in this district, despite what happened last year. I chalk up more of what happened last year as a hiccup, but I think they got that hiccup out of the system. They held their breath, they counted to 10, and I think Lovejoy is back and ready to be competitive again this year.
And you remember they lost that district title on a 2-point conversion, so it's not like they got spunked out by Melissa. That was nip and tuck, pretty much an even game. But another team I want to talk about is the Terrell Tigers. They shocked a lot of people by squeezing into the playoffs like that. Are they ready to make another playoff run in this district?
I mean, you remember last year their playoff run was absolutely sensational. They lost to Melissa in a rematch of the game, but they beat Everman and they beat Texas High in going to the third round of the playoffs. And they got that really good running back Chase Bingman coming back. I mean, this is going to be a kid who's going to be a bobblehead candidate if Terrell is in your zone of trust. I mean, this is going to be a player we're going to watch. Coach Marvin Sedberry, he relishes this kind of a thing. He brings excitement. They got Markel Hambrick, a really talented cornerback, coming back as well. Terrell is going to be a top 15 ranked team, and they're going to be just right under Lovejoy and Melissa. But I think they're going to really be nipping at the heels of those two teams, and they're going to be a dangerous team, as we saw in the playoffs last year. Nobody's going to want to see them in the first round. Like last year, Texas High had that game where they lost. They kind of lost in the last week to get matched up against Terrell in the first round, and that did not work well for them because the Terrell Tigers took them out, and I think that Texas High got humbled by Terrell, and I think that's going to be a motivating factor for Terrell to know that we played with some of the state's best teams last year, and we can do it again. And that just really speaks to how strong this district was. Last week when we talked about South Oak Cliff, I talked about how I didn't know if South Oak Cliff was going to be able to repeat because this region is so strong. We talked about Mansfield Summit and 5-5A 2 weeks ago. Last week, we talked about South Oak Cliff, Lovejoy, Melissa, Terrell, three really good teams in this district. And we're not even going to talk about Texas High because I know you won't let me talk about them as part of part of the Metroplex Consortium out there in the East Texas district. But Terrell is going to be a fun team to watch. But Ward, I think the race for the fourth place team is going to be a really fun race in this district. And maybe you've got an opinion. I've got Crandall just a little bit over Denison in this district, but I think that an argument could be made either way for either team.
Crandall and Denison are definitely two teams that should be battling it out. And your thoughts on teams like Poteet and Greenville? They're probably just going to be staggering down there in the bottom half.
Yeah, Poteet is really struggling. Coach Rodney McLean, he's done a great job, but Poteet, our guy Ted Madden, it's not the Poteet that 8 to 10 years ago when Mesquite ISD was waving the flag of excellence. Really, they've all I think Mesquite Horn has probably been the best team the last couple of years, and I think they're probably the best team in Mesquite ISD this year. But this is not a Mesquite ISD warm-up show. We'll let Ted Madden take care of the Mesquite ISD warm-up show. But I'm a little nervous about Poteet just because they're in this district, and it's not really a district that tends itself to the rebuild. Crandall, you got Coach Kyle Harden over there, former McKinney North offensive coordinator, who has done great things over there. They graduated a lot of their big players, so that's where a lot of their question marks come in. But they got Jameson Starrett, their quarterback, coming back. He was injured last year. So he didn't get a lot of playing time, but I think he's going to be back. Andrew Anderson is expected to take over at running back, and Joshua Smith. How can you replace Samuel Omasayo? I mean, you just can't replace that kind of offensive efficiency, but he's going to be tasked to do that. So Crandall's got a lot of those offensive questions. Obviously, the defense last year, they got in a lot of shootouts, a lot of 50 and 60-point games. So that's going to have to get better. Denison, they graduated everybody. Ty Rhodes is expected to step in at quarterback. He was a sophomore, going to be a junior this year. Kenyon Kelly, free safety, very talented kid who is expected to be their best defensive player. Coach Whitson is a fantastic coach. You remember him over at South Grand Prairie. He's done great things everywhere he's been, so I expect him to do good things at Denison. But what will he be able to overcome this district and get past Crandall's talent? I think that's going to be the big question. Greenville, we'll just give a little shout out to Jonathan Sampson. He's their returning all-district linebacker, and he's going to probably be their best player this year. But Greenville and Poteet are going to have a really hard time competing in this monster district.
Well, let's hear it. Let's hear the top. Let's hear your rankings in April.
Our April and May rankings.
Right.
I have Lovejoy #1. So embrace me, acknowledge me, Lucas. Lovejoy fans, I'm coming back home. Please accept me. I've got Lovejoy #1, Melissa #2, Terrell #3, Crandall 4, Denison 5, Greenville 6. I have Greenville over Poteet, and Mesquite Poteet #7. Sorry, Ted.
This is one of the 2 5A districts where you got to gas them, get them buses ready to gas up, because we're doing some traveling in some of these games. The other one being the Lancaster district up in Division 1. But that's a good pick. I'm going to get you a compass so you know how far out east Texas High is, so we don't have to talk about them on this show anymore, because we don't play that. Get yourself a compass and a map, and we'll figure it all out. But we're moving up to Division 1 and 5A Division 1, and I know you're going to have some hot opinions on 3 5A D1. I've seen some on Twitter, and I know you're going to tell us on this as well.
And I know we're just 2 weeks away from talking about DFW's own Lake Belton. So if you can just hold off for 2 more weeks, Ward, it's going to be Lake Belton and Killeen talk here on the DFW Inside High School Sports.
Oh, brother. All right. See you next week, guys.
See you next week, Ward.